So my name's Claudio Medel. Thank you for coming. I'm an Aussie, as you might have guessed. The brand is Kenyon Medel Jewelry. So it's my wife and I. We both started the brand together when we met over 12 years ago. Her name is Natalie Kenyon, and I'm Claudio Medel. So Kenyon Medel Jewelry. It's been an amazing love affair, the two of us. We met 12 years ago, both jewelers. And she does her work, which is very modern in style, and I do mine, which is the filigree. I'll start it with mine because mine's the better stuff. No. Yeah, exactly. She's not here, but she's definitely the brains behind the business. So, so for those of you who know David Yurman, John Hardy, Constantino from Greece, these gentlemen are the most prolific filigree designers in the marketplace. So the world of filigree, if you can imagine, when you're looking at the pieces, when you're looking at the designs in the pieces, it's all hand sculpture. Now, I started way back at school days, I was a sculptor. I loved art and I loved sculpture. That was my medium. So I started with clay. As when I finished school, I went into graphic design, into advertising, into events. So I was in a very creative stream, but I wasn't in jewelry. It was my wife who was the jeweler, and she's a gemologist. Just come in, take a seat, enjoy. So when I finally got to a point in my career where I was sick and tired of doing design work and being creative for somebody else. Right? Because that is the world of advertising. You are creative, but you're always being creative for the client. And so when I met Natalie, and she was in jewelry and she was immersed in jewelry, I decided, well, you know what? I could actually just move my creative focus into jewelry. And having a technical background in sculpture, filigree was a beautiful enmeshment for me. This work, when you're looking at it, it's imagine a block of wax, and I'll have the paper on the side, the design on the side, and on that wax, I'll sculpt into the wax the design that you see. And from that wax mold, I then pour the silver, and that's how we get our castings. That's how we make our jewelry. So it's all hand sculptured. It's very technical. It's very, it's brilliant. So I'm inspired by these gentlemen, David Yurman and John Hardy. They are my big inspiration, and Constantino. Constantino, actually, he would be the one that I love the most. He's from Greece, and by far he is the most prolific in my view of the world of filigree. But in little old Australia, these designers don't even come to Australia. So when I started doing the work and we started bringing it to the trade shows in Australia, the brand was very successful, and we started getting the work all around, all the Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne. It started to become very, very good. Now, so we'll pass that around. So with this piece, I do 18 karat gold, I do sterling silver, and I do natural gemstones within the range. Now the gold, a lot of the ladies say to me, is the gold going to tarnish or wear out after a while? No, it's not. It's 18 karat. It's not gold plated. It's 18 karat gold, which I then sold. So it's done separately. The molding is done separately to the silver, and then it's soldered onto the silver. So it will remain for a lifetime. And then the gems, my wife's the gemologist. She buys the gems. She buys them from all around the world. I'll get into gems in a bit. This range here was the next evolution. Now let's see if we can do this one without dropping it. I'm thinking maybe the rings we might just put down so that it stays down. And so yeah, when you have a good look and then just pass them around. So this is an Ottoman inspiration. So this came about by one of our clients who loved the oldie worldy design, because I antique the silver to give it that real oldie worldy antiquing essence. She loved the jewelry, but she was really inspired by the Ottoman Empire. She was a historian, that's what she was into, and she came to us saying, can you do me something special, something different, something beautiful? It was a one-off piece that she wanted, like set. So we did the earrings, the pendant, the bracelet, and the ring for her in this style. Only what we did was, so the beginning of it was Natalie and I went into the history books. We started looking at what did the Ottoman queen wear. The Ottoman kings and queens, what did they wear way back when? And so it was gold, diamonds, and it was rubies and emeralds. Okay, that was the main stones that they loved, and with that beautiful Ottoman design style. So we made her a piece, and it was very beautiful. The bracelet was a $25,000 bracelet. You know, it was expensive, beautiful, high-end jewelry. She loved it. She walked away happy, and Natalie and I were like, our baby's gone, right? Because we had just spent all this time and energy designing a product that we then thought, you know what, we should actually redo this idea and only do it you know, at a price point that's reasonable, so we can actually go to the retail stores and sell it. And so this is the creation. We started this about, it'd be about 2.5 years ago now. And so instead of gold, we're using sterling silver. Instead of diamonds, we're using clear quartz. Instead of high-end ruby and emerald, we're using rough-cut ruby and emerald. So you're still getting the ruby and emerald stone, only at the first level of collecting. So really beautiful gems, really beautiful quality. The thing with this work, though, sorry that I'm a little drunk.
We all are.
Yeah. The thing with this work is the antiquing. That is what makes it so, like, I love it when ladies will come to me and go, oh, is this an antique? I'm like, yes. Yeah. That's, you know, that's what we're trying to create. So it is new jewelry, only we antiquate the silver, we antiquate the workmanship. I do a gold vermilling around the jewelry to give it that real beautiful look and feel. So Natalie, she loves gems. She is a gemologist by trade. She goes around the world buying gemstones. That's what she does. The main hubs, if you really want, Jaipur is one of the best areas for big, beautiful gems that are clean. When you look at this range, and I tell all my buyers this, like when you buy something, you get what you pay for, you know. I'll have a blue topaz ring, for example, that's, and I think the lady might be here, I'm not sure. There was one for $250 and then the other one was around $1,000. It's blue topaz, sterling silver. The big difference is the quality of the gem. And you can see it, you know, when you put them together, then you go, oh, that's when you can see it. And it's the same with diamonds, it's the same with every gem that you buy on the planet, but people don't recognize that it's the same thing when you're coming to what used to be called the semi-precious stones. Now, H. Stern, do you guys know H. Stern? Yes. This gentleman has by far made the semi-precious world into precious. Okay, he's a big fan of the blue topaz, the amethyst, the citrines, the smoky quartz, all of these gems. And what H. Stern has been doing is putting these gems into and setting them with the gold, right? And so he's been on the case with changing the wording. So now we all call the gems precious gemstones. But my wife loves H. Stern work. This is what she's inspired by. This is what she looks at, because they are prolific. They are the masters of quality big gemstones. So what we're doing with this range, it's sterling silver with a rhodium plating, so the silver will remain high bling for much longer than normal, and it's all about the quality gems. She gets the gems like I said, in Jaipur. She goes to Mexico, she goes to Brazil. It makes for a great lifestyle because we're always traveling, and now with the cruise ships, another bit of travel. But as you know, we've got a little baby, and so we're all a little stuck now. It's become quite a part of our life, moving around and designing and going to different countries, and we've loved the lifestyle. But I'm thinking a little backpack with my little girl on there. Maybe one, I don't know, maybe two. I'd love another baby. Anyway. So yeah, so my wife loves the H. Stern look, and she's also been looking at Bulgari. There's a bracelet there that looks just like Bulgari. Bulgari is starting to do the same thing. They're using the semi-precious stones in with quality jewelry. So another thing that she does, and this is a little hint for you silver buyers out there, is Mexican silver. For some reason, unknown to anyone, Mexican silver, when you get the silver out of the dirt, yeah? Mexican silver, for some reason, has the least tarnishing qualities inherent in the silver. So what that means is when you make the jewelry out of Mexican silver rather than Indonesian silver or silver from another country, the bling remains longer. It has less copper, less zinc inherent in the silver. So it's a better quality silver. Now, it was Tiffany's that, began this trend. They were the ones that started marketing Mexican silver with their product. And the rest of us, all the designers out there, started seeing what Tiffany's were doing, and then I started researching it myself, and for sure, Mexican silver is by far a much better quality silver. So when you're buying silver, buy Mexican. And 925, right? You get the stamping. All I can say about stamping, 925 means 92.5% silver. Okay, you can't do 100 because it becomes too weak. You need the little bit in there to give it the strength. But 92.5 is the international standard, and so that's why jewelers will stamp their jewelry 925 silver. How easy do you think it is to stamp on jewelry?
Very.
Pretty easy. Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy.
Can you trust it?
So that's the thing, 18K, right? Anyone can stamp whatever they want on jewelry. And so this is what I always tell a lot of my clients, it all comes back to who you're buying off. If you have a good jeweler that you trust, then you know that what you're buying is real. One thing that I always give a little word of caution, especially for when you're traveling, think of when you go to eat. When you go into the marketplace and you go for food, right, in the tourist environments, when you go on the main street, the main hub, and there's the restaurants there, usually you find that the food doesn't actually taste that good. It's a lot of hype, a lot of it'll be like right on the main thing, and the food kind of tastes a little, and it's very pricey. You go into the back streets where the tourists don't go. You go where it doesn't look as pretty because it's a back area of that tourist hub where the locals go, and you'll find restaurants that have really good food at the right price. Why does this happen? The guys on the tourist streets, they get the tourist trade. And so they're not looking for repeat customers. They're one-time clients. So they don't put the money into the chef. They don't put the money into the food. And you're in and out, and they charge it up, and too bad, you're gone, and the next one's coming. It's the same with the jewelry world. Okay, so if prolific jewelers, you look at the brands, look at people that have been around for years. They're the ones that I would recommend to buy, because when like the street vendors, 925 silver, they're putting 40% silver into it. You buy the ring, you think, wow, this is great, and you get home and it goes green on you, right? Or your hand goes black and you're wondering what you bought, right? There are some deals out there. Sometimes they're a little too good to be true. So yeah, word of warning. But yeah, so the main thing with jewelry is find yourself someone that you work with, and you do, especially when you're buying something of quality, get someone you trust. Okay. So, pearls or opal? Opal, okay. Opal it is. Let's start this one over this side. Is everyone getting a good look at the stuff? Is it all going around? There you go. So opal. So my wife and I, by this stage, we'd been in the game for about 8 years together. We had grown our company quite successfully, and today we've got over 100 retail stores around Australia that sell our product. And it's the stores that give us the power to buy. Now, when you're looking at markets like opal, like South Sea Pearl, it's not cheap. And so the only way to be a player in those markets is to have the buying power. For us, it was the stores that gave us that buying power. So when you're looking at opal, when you're looking at any quality gem, that's really what it comes down to. The person that's dealing in that stone has to buy en masse to be able to get the right price point for the gem. So when I buy opal, when I first started, I'd go, and there's the opal mines. You should go. It's a lot of fun. You can have you can dig around and. Sorry. Australia, darling, Australia. There is opal from there's Mexico has opal. There's a few countries that have opal, but Australia has about 95% of the market. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's the ground. You need the right environment to create the opal. So millions and millions and millions of years ago, the deserts of Australia, they were full of water. okay? And so underneath the water, in the rock beds, imagine big boulders, big rock beds, and there was sedimentation moving through the rock beds. Now, as time went on, the earth started to heat up, the water started to come down. The sedimentation stopped moving and started to crystallize. And then as it became desert, and then millions of years of extreme heat put into the area, the crystallization then opalized. So that's how opal is formed, that's how it's made. You need the right environments. You need the water to turn into desert. And Australia has lots of desert. We have 95% of the opal industry. So opals, when you're looking at the stone, it's funny because there's crystal, there's boulder, and there's black. Now, black opal is the best stone in the market. It's the number one when talking about a stone that goes up in value. Now, the reason for the names is the different areas that you mine. Okay, so Lightning Ridge and Cooper Pedy is where I go to get my opal from. And so crystal opal is the least expensive, boulder opal is the middle, and black opal is the best. And it's the areas that you mine. So when you're looking at the opals, crystal opal will always be a little bit lighter, a little bit, you can almost see through it. That's why they call it crystal, because it's almost luminescent in the way that you look at it. The boulder opal, I should have maybe brought my big rocks. I've got some boulder specimens. They're big, beautiful, stunning boulders with the opal on it. So you can imagine, right, when the sedimentation crystallized and then opalized on the rock beds, right, that's the backing of the opal. Okay, so boulder opal, it's a rock bed that was brown in color, almost looks like a tree stump. So whenever you're looking at the backs of the opal, you'll see a brown color, and then you know that's a boulder. Okay, crystal, you look at the backs and they're very see-through, so that's when you know it's a crystal opal. And then black, the black stone in Australia, it's at Lightning Ridge. So here the boulders were black, and the opal crystallized on the sedimentation crystallized on the black bed, and so when you look at the backs of the black opal, it's black. So it doesn't mean when I say, oh, beautiful black opal, doesn't mean that it's a black looking rock. They have all different colors coming out of it. The reason that yes?
Isn't the black opal the absence of white? There's nothing white in it?
Well, yes, there isn't white in the opal. Yes, right. I didn't think of it that way, but yes, it's so the back of the stone will either be a light grey to a black. That's the colouring of the boulder beds, and the reason that black opal has become the most expensive. Think of it like photography. When you have, because this is all about the play of light, yeah. So when you have a photograph, and you put a black backing on the photograph, the colors all of a sudden start to really come out. Okay, and so that's what happens with the black opal. Because it has a black backing on the stone, the colors of the opal just really shine and really dance. The gentleman here, he's talking about doublets and triplets, yes? So I don't deal in that market. In the bonding that you're talking about, I call, you know, they have all these terminology for it, it's glue. Right? And in the end, that's what it is. And what they do is this. They'll get a stone, an opal stone, whatever crystal, boulder or black, and they slice the stone really thinly, okay, with lasers. And so they get a very thin shaving. And so then they get a black stone underneath, and they'll stick it onto the black stone. So that's 2 layers called a doublet, okay? And then a triplet, they'll get a coloured stone, a black stone more than likely. They get and then the thin shaving is so thin that it's so brittle of the opal, they'll stick it on, but it's so brittle that they need to put another layer on top of a clear resin layer on top so that to give it the rigidity, and so that's a triplet, 3 layers. So triplets are the least expensive, doublets are the next, and then you get the stones. I don't deal in that market because I don't believe in it. Okay, any form of glue in your jewelry, if you're washing your hands, what do you think is going to happen? Right? So I don't like it. I don't deal in it. There's a lot of people that do, and that's where you get the cheaper opal forms. You know, because a lot of people also say, "Oh, I've seen opal for $100 in a ring." You know, and that's when you're looking at doublets and triplets, and it's it's part of the jewelry industry. The jewelers do it.
So how do you tell?
Difficult to tell. Difficult to tell. And you know what's the worst part about it? there are traders out there, like I was saying before, that they'll say, "Sir, it's an opal." You know, "Oh, it's an opal, great, oh, beautiful, how much? Oh, yeah." And they don't tell you what they're selling to you. So how do you know, especially when the backing of the jewelry is covered, right? But even then, it's when the stone is set, extremely difficult to tell. So all I can say is trust the jeweler you're dealing with. You know, that's what it comes. That's the jewelry world is inherent with people that do trickery, you know, and that's just part of the trade. So that's why I always tell people, if you're going to spend a pretty penny, because opals can get very expensive, buy it with someone you trust, buy it with a reputable company. You know, dealers on the street, you just don't know what you're getting.
Well,
sometimes you might get a deal.
May I ask you a question about lapis?
Yes.
What is lapis considered?
So lapis lazuli, so again we're going into that semi-precious world, but it's called precious stone now.
But is it, and sometimes it can be infused with the gold, flecked with the gold. It's not natural.
Oh, okay. So now what we're talking about is grinding stones. So the natural stone, and this is not just with lapis, this can be done with turquoise, this can be done with a lot of different stones. What they do is they grind the stone down to like almost powder form and then rebuild it. Right? And so by doing that, they rebuild it with other materials in there, so that with a little stone you can end up with a really big stone that looks like lapis or looks like turquoise, but it's been ground down and then man-made.
Is it ever natural to have gold in lapis?
Oh, the gold flecks.
Yeah.
See, that can be, yes, because same with turquoise. Turquoise has flecks of colors and flecks of, yeah, so that can be inherent naturally.
But that's considered semi.
All of them are, but not anymore. Now they're precious.
Okay.
It's like this little thing that's going on. But the main thing, again, so we're talking about either precious stones that are man-made or precious stones that are natural. Okay? And that's the big difference. And so the jeweler that you're dealing with will tell you whether they've been enhanced, whether the colors have been enhanced, whether the stones have been heated, whether they've been crushed down and then turned into a stone, right? All of these man-made enhancing on stones makes the value of the stone lower. So you get a bigger, beautiful piece, but it's been man-enhanced, so it's not as good quality. When you get a beautiful big piece that has come out of the dirt like that, it's natural, it's been polished up and it's beautiful, they're your quality gems. It's the same as diamonds. Always think back to diamonds. You know those diamonds that they have inclusions, and then they whiten the inclusions so that you don't see it, the black inclusion so easily. That's what they do with diamonds. They whiten the inclusion now, and so then it looks like an amazing diamond, but it's been man whitened. So again, the dealer that you do, because that's the whole point. Who's going to know this? They can show you a diamond and, no, it's natural, ma'am, natural. The dealer that you're dealing with, that's what I always recommend. So opals, any questions? Any other questions about opal? Okay, so yes, according to diamonds, yes they are, because diamonds are, there's a Mohs scale of fragility. A diamond is the strongest, it will break anything. Emerald is about the same place as the opal. So when people think, oh, opals are very fragile, you know, you don't think of that with emerald, but yet emerald is fragile too. If you're going to go smacking the thing or head banging, you might break them, but it needs a pretty hard hit to break an opal. What I suggest with my settings, and this is what I do with my designing, is I'll put either metal or diamonds around the stone, so that if you smack it onto something, it's going to have something to impact the impact. It's when
They're affected by heat, aren't they? Heat and cold.
well,
In an oven, it's intense.
yeah, well, you're the first one to mention that. I haven't heard about heat on the stone. What they do love is water, and that's the same with pearl. Pearl and opal both love water. And one little hint for you, don't put your pearls or your opal in safes, because they need oxygen. They're an organic form. Especially, think of your pearls, darlings. Everyone puts their pearls in their safes. Pearls love oxygen, so they will discolor over time. and they become like a very dark cream rather than the light bright white. So you need to, the best thing is to keep them wrapped in place that has oxygen. Opal hates sprays or perfumes, so ladies, and same with pearl. Pearl and opal have the same qualities because they're both the same. They're a natural organism. So if you're going to be spraying yourself with perfume, do it before you put your opals or your pearls on. They don't like it. They don't like anything that's not natural. So if it's an oil that is natural based oil, then yes, then it'll absorb it and it'll bring the colors out in it, yes. So, but always be sure not to do it with something that has perfume or something that's not natural.
If the pearls start to get a creamy color
Yep.
over years or whatever,
Yep.
is there a way to bring them back?
Not really. No, they will remain love them as they are, darling. The colors they're natural. It's a natural phenomena, so they will darken over time. The more you take care of them, the more they'll remain light in color. Okay, so back to opal. Just really quickly, colors. You get a huge array of colors in the opal family. So from greens to blues to reds. That's the price point of the color in the opal. The least expensive being the green because there's the most abundant color. Blues next. Red hardly ever comes out of the mines. So the color red is the most expensive in the opal world. So if I was to say to you that I've got a black opal that's red, will it be more expensive than a bolder opal that's green?
Yeah.
No. Yes. Yes, no, yes. It won't. So always remember when you're looking at your opal, the most important thing about opals is the fire that comes out. Opal is a natural phenomena that is the light of reflection is what the opal is about. So it's the dance of color within the stone. So you can get a crystal opal that's green that has the most intense fire in it, and you can get a black opal that's red, that's dull in fire. It'll be a cheaper stone. But if you have a black opal that's red and has fire, now you're talking, now you're getting into the higher price points in the marketplace. But yes?
What is the price range of your opals?
Okay, so I have stones from around $1,000 right through to about, here on the ship, I've got one for $28,000. And yes, and that one for yes. 2 sold to the gentleman on the side there. Any more bidders? I'm not an auctioneer. Yes, so and the thing with opal, you sneeze and the price goes up. It's a beautiful stone, and so what I tell all the ladies when you're looking at my stones on the table, or whenever you're buying, wherever you're looking at stones, don't ask the gentleman the price. Try and see what you like. Because it's in the eye of the beholder. You go through the stones and you go, well, I like that one, right? And that one might be a really good priced piece. They don't necessarily have to be the most expensive opals for you to like them. It's a very individual taste that we're talking about. And some ladies go to the most expensive, and I'm like, well, her husband's in trouble. Thank you. Okay, so let's get on to what everyone's been waiting for. Let's go this way. Would you like that? So, pearls. Do you want to hear a little history about pearls? Okay. So, first thing to think about, fresh water, salt water. Okay, that's the two industries. Fresh water, mussels. Salt water, oysters. And it's the nacre within these little mollusks that's the difference. The nacre, so when the little dude's in the water, an inclusion will go in, like a bit of sand or some bit of inclusion will go into the mollusk, and it creates an irritation, and it'll create this thing called nacre around the irritation, and then after a while that's what forms a pearl. So the mollusk nacre is less valuable than the oyster nacre. The oyster nacre, the saltwater pearls, are the most valuable because of their iridescent quality inherent in the nacre of the mollusk. Okay, so that's the main difference. So if we go into the least expensive pearl in the market, we go into the freshwater variety. The freshwaters, and about, it would have been about in the 60s, around there, they really took a dive in the market because China started developing techniques to make it very prolific. What they were doing was, in the mollusk, in the big mussels, they were able to put up to 20 inclusions in one mussel. So when you're putting that many that you're creating 20 pearls out of one little dude, yeah? So imagine if you're a farmer and you've got a spread of ocean where you're farming, all of a sudden you've just 20 times your lot, right? So the production of freshwater pearl became prolific. As supply went up, the price went down. So, and a lot, you know, so that's the freshwater market. Now we have Mabe pearls. Okay, so this, and I've got a few Mabe pearls. Let me just show you one so that you can see what we're talking about. Mabe pearls, see this one? Can everyone see it? It's a design style that is made by jewelers. Now I'm sure the ladies have bought Mabes before and they didn't actually know what they were buying. A Mabe pearl is a half-shaped pearl, half dome. So what it is, it's jewelers wanting to create different pearls, right? Different designs out of the pearl. So the pearl is naturally round, right? Or kind of round. So what we do, instead of putting a roundish inclusion, it all comes back to the inclusion that's been put into the mollusk. We put a flat inclusion. So by putting a flat inclusion in, the mollusk will then get the irritation and it will start creating a half-domed pearl. So that's how the Mabe pearl is formed. So it's a natural pearl made by the mollusk, but it's got the inclusion in it is flat. Let me just talk about inclusions for a minute, because a lot of people talk about what's a cultured pearl is a farmed pearl, and then there's the natural pearl out in the wilderness, out in the oceans, right? And a little oyster naturally got a bit of sand in it and made the pearl. Now, there are still divers who dive for pearls. That still happens today. It's pretty rare. But most, like Mikimoto, does everyone know Mikimoto? It's like the most prolific pearl designer we all know of and love. His pearls are cultured, okay? And it's not a Mikimoto pearl, which is a lot of ladies say, oh, I've got a Mikimoto pearl. That's wrong, because that'd be like me saying these are Kenyon Medel pearls. I'd love them to be, they're not. The pearls are inherent from where they come from. So Mikimoto is Japanese, he has a Japanese pearl. That's what he gets from, so his saltwater pearls are called Akoya pearl. So that's the Mikimoto pearl. It's an Akoya pearl from Japan. And I don't deal in that market because we have the South Sea pearl, but I'll get to that in a minute. When you're looking at a strand and it's the same size, the same inclusions, right? And it's a farmed pearl, so if you know the man has put the inclusions in, right? And now you're looking at a strand that's naturally formed. So there's been divers, they've gone in, right? There is a price point difference, and it's a huge price point difference. And the reason for the price difference is, imagine if you're a diver, you get an oyster, no pearl. Oh, it's a out of shape pearl. Oh, this one's round, but it's a bit yellow. Oh, this one, right? So to get one strand of the same quality, the same luster, the same roundness, the same everything, it would take you a century to be diving for these pearls and to get this one natural necklace. So this was something that was done in history. This was the kings and the queens of way back when had their slaves dive for the pearls, and so they're pearls in antiquity. You can buy them still, and these are the most expensive strands in the market. They are antique strands, and they are beautiful strands, yeah? Now, I had a lady in the crowd once who she was saying, oh, but the pearl is so much better. That's not true. They're more expensive, but the pearl is... Do you think a little dude in a farm who got a guy put in the... Do you think this dude knows that he's in a farm and that a human put an inclusion in? What about this dude in the ocean who a bit of sand went inside him? Do you think he knows that he's not in a farm and he's... Right? They don't have a clue. They create what they create. right? So in the end, whether it's a farmed pearl or whether it's a natural pearl, the pearl is the pearl. And a beautiful strand is a beautiful strand. But when you're pricing them up, the ones that are natural, they're about 3 times. You'll know it when you're looking at one because the price is, extremely rare. So most designers out there, including Mikimoto, are all doing cultured pearls. We're all farming pearls today, everywhere, all around the planet. It's a farmed industry. So we go.
What are the
Yes.
coin pearls, the flat ones?
Yep. So that's a naturally occurring pearl.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Are
they're
colors worth more than whites, like the gray pearls? I have gray baroques that were
yes.
white.
So greys. Now we're talking about Tahitian pearls. So I'll get to that in a minute. And but you're right. The Tahitian pearl is a much more expensive pearl. Okay, so we've got the Marbes, baroques. I've got a beautiful baroque strand in there. They're the off-shaped pearls. So in the marketplace, all the ladies are used to seeing the rounds, and that's what's been loved and what everyone has wanted. Yeah, and still the perfect round pearl is the most expensive pearl in the market, always will be, because it's the most rarest to get out of an oyster. But what's been happening, it all comes back to supply and demand. The baroque pearl, because the ladies haven't seen it that often and wanting something new in the market, it has become the fashionable item of today. I just went to Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, this is about maybe 8 months ago, and and this is a high-end store, and they've got beautiful pearls, they've got South Seas, they've got $30,000 strands, etc., and more expensive. And the manager there, was wearing a South Sea baroque strand, right, which I have as well. I don't have one on the ship, but if you want them, and we're in Sydney, I can get them. Baroque South Sea strands, they're around 20,000. They're just as expensive as a round South Sea strand. But she was wearing the baroque strand, and when I saw this is about 8 months to a year ago, I saw the manager at Saks Fifth Avenue wearing it. That's when I clicked that, right, it's about the baroques. The baroques are having a big resurgence, and it's because it's something new, and we're always looking for something new in the market. So if you love baroques, the ones that we have here, these are freshwater baroques, so the price points are really good. We have big, beautiful strands, so make a real statement piece, and the price point is very good. So baroques, then we get, so that's your fresh waters, right? And then there's the normal round fresh waters. So we start going into salt water now. Salt water, so now we go into the oyster pearl. So the Akoya, salt water from Japan, I don't deal in. That's Mikimoto's pearl because I have the South Sea. And I'll get into that in a minute. Tahitian strands. The oyster. So colors, right? Colors in the pearl. How does the color happen in a pearl? When you look at the oyster, the shell of the oyster, it's called mother of pearl. Okay, you've all seen mother of pearl. The reason that it's called mother of pearl is because whatever color that shell is becomes the color of the pearl. That's how it works. So in different areas, different waters around the world, in the Tahitian waters, for some reason that no one knows, because you can't do it anywhere else on the planet. The oyster doesn't get black, right? The oysters are black in the Tahitian waters. The mother of pearl is like a grey-black color. And so they produce the black pearl. And that's a beautiful, rare Tahitian pearls. Very beautiful. I have a few. And they come from the light greys right through the blacks. Again, colors are very important. The peacock black is the most prolific color in the Tahitian market. Yes?
What about the blue pearl? We saw.
Yes? So blue pearl, they're New Zealand. So New Zealand gets the blue pearl because for some reason they have the shell of the oyster there has a blue coloring. So they naturally get a blue colored pearl in New Zealand. Only place you can get it. Yeah. And so then same with all the other colors. So when you're looking at a yellow pearl or a pink pearl, the natural colors is because the oyster has that coloring within the mother of pearl. That's how they're made. And so what the market has done, because we're talking about salt water, we're talking about oysters. So what the market does is they replicate what nature does, man-made, right? So what they do is they get a normal white pearl and they'll dye it black. And they'll dye it pink, and they'll dye, right? And so that's the dyed variety. Now that's beautiful, and I do them. Everyone does dyed pearls. I'm not against it because it's still quality. When you dye a pearl, the pearl is opal, what do you call it when water can go through it? It's porous. So when you dye a pearl, the dye goes right through the pearl. So it's not like you're going to chip it and it's going to be white. It's going to be the color of that pearl right through it. So it's quality product. But the thing to state is, the dealer that you're dealing with better tell you that it's a dyed pearl, because the price point is way less than a natural colored pearl. So that's the main thing when looking at pearls. Make sure that you know whether it's dyed or whether it's natural. Big price difference.
One more thing, I'm sorry, I wanted to.
No, you're right.
The Mallorca pearl.
Okay. So Mallorca pearls.
It's glass.
Yes, Mallorca pearls are not real. What they do is they're crushing the pearl, the mother of pearl. They crush, so the mother of pearl, the shell, they crush that to ground it down and then make them into pearls.
But they're, you're in Spain and you're paying all this money. You're paying for glass.
Mallorca. But it's a crushed mother of pearl. So man-made, it's not real. So the most prolific pearl in the marketplace, where do you reckon it's from? We have the best pearl in the planet now, and it would be a fallacy for me to say. So, for example, let's get to Mikimoto. Mikimoto oysters. Okay, for some reason in Japan, the oysters are little. That's it. They get, you can't pump steroids into an oyster. They are the size they are, right? And so the largest Mikimoto pearl, or like a Koya pearl, is about an 8 millimeter pearl. They're quite small, okay? But if you got an Akoya pearl of 8 millimeters and you got a South Sea pearl of 8 millimeters, and they had the same inclusion, the same luster, the same everything, same price pearl, same quality, same. The reason that the South Sea pearl is the most prolific in price point is because we have the largest pearls in the industry. For some reason, oysters in Australia are massive. We get the biggest oysters, and and it's the waters. The waters just naturally make this happen. So it's a natural phenomena. We get the Mac Daddy oyster, so we get the Mac Daddy pearl. What do you reckon was the most expensive pearl on the planet? Does anyone know? Bit of trivia for you. Oh my God, now I'm going to forget her name. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor, back in the day when she was married to Richard Burton, thank you. Richard Burton bought her a pearl. Now the pearl was La Pellegrina. That was the name of the pearl. There was a queen, and I forgot her name, way back when, who one of her slaves dove for the pearl and found the most magnificent, beautiful, it was about a 22 millimeter beautiful big pearl. Perfectly round, no inclusions, best pearl. So the Queen had it. The Queen put it into an estate, and years going by, Richard Burton wants to give her a present, buys the pearl. They go to Cartier and designed up a beautiful strand with the pearl. When Elizabeth Taylor died, when she passed away, the pearl went to auction and it sold for 1.3 million. One pearl. It's a bit of history with, Elizabeth Taylor holding it, but you can see how even one pearl can get so prolific in price point. And it's the same thing with opal. One opal, the prices, when I say I've got a $27,000 rock, in the world of opal, that's cheap. There's opal that can, the prices can become astounding. It's the same like diamonds. Diamonds are the same thing. And the thing to note is you look at, everyone knows the world of diamonds. You look at one diamond and it's 10 grand. You look at another diamond and it's 100 grand, and man, it's difficult to tell the difference, extremely difficult unless you know what you're doing, and then the subtleties are very rare. But if you're versed in it, then you can start picking it and you can tell straight away. And maybe the ladies here could be a little versed in the diamond trade. But yeah, so that's the difference in pricing. So yeah, so the South Sea pearl, we have lots of strands, we have lots of different designs. If you like South Seas, come and talk to me. Any questions? Yes?
Can they reproduce the saltwater pearls and farm them by putting in salt water and bits of sand or whatever?
Well, they farm salt water. So they go to areas where the salt water is, and it's all, you know, the government restrictions, right? So the government owns the area, and so you need to buy the land where the water comes off, and you become a farmer. And so in those areas, you then farm out the pearls, right? That's how it's made.
How long does it take?
Okay, so depending on, it's the size of the pearl. So again, so if you, let me talk about farming. Imagine you're a farmer. You've got a plot of land where the ocean goes out, so you've got an area where you're farming, and so you'll have two modes of thought: the maximum dollar that I can get per pearl, or quantity. Keep producing them, right? And it'll all come back to who your buyer is, right? So depending on your buyer will be whether you are focused on quality or quantity, right? So what happens with most farmers, if they have a retail store, so it's all about the buyers, right? If they have retailers that are looking at a lower grade pearl, well, what they'll want to do with their area is move them after every 6 months. Every 6 months, you know, get the oysters. The oysters will create a pearl of such a size. I can't tell you the exact sizing that happens after 6 months, but after that period, they'd want to move them on, get the next batch, right? So to keep moving the pearl. The other farmers who have retail stores that want the higher ended product will go for like 2, 3 years, 4 years cultivating the bigger pearls. So they get the better price points for their pearl, but it takes them double, triple, quadruple the amount of time to produce that pearl. So that's how they do it. Now with the farming, so for example, I go to Broome to get my South Sea pearl. Imagine tables, right? Imagine big tables, yeah? And on these tables, it'll be different price point pearls, right? So on this table is a price, this table's a price, this table's a price, right? And so when you go in, it's the eye of the person that's buying, because in a table of pearl that's all the same price, the differences within those pearls are huge. So it comes back to the person who's buying them to know which ones are the deal inside that lot and which ones are a little bit too excessive that should have been in the other table, you know? So it all comes back to the eye of the person who's buying the pearl. But that's how you buy pearls. So you get the different strands depending on the quality, depending on the size, depending on the inclusion, depending on the luster and the beauty of the pearl.
Can they regenerate, or do they just throw the oysters out after the first time?
Oysters are done.
Done.